Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
They keep saying we must want civil war. But tell me, friend, what are we fighting for? We just want to be left alone, to chase our dreams and build our homes. Front porch lights fading in the storm, trying to hold on to what was warm. But we ain't changed, we're still the same, standing proud in a world gone strange. You call it rage, we call it pain. We just want our freedom back again. Flags have torn, let me raise them high. We ain't changed, we just won't lie. They moved the lines, kept pushing the frame, redefining truth and changing names. They say progress like it's a holy word. Nobody's listening, nobody's heard. We stayed steady while they rewrote the song. Now they call us out for holding on. Well, we ain't changed, we're still the same, standing proud in a world gone strange. You call it rage, we call it pain. We just want our freedom back again. Flags have torn, but we raise them high. We ain't changed, we just won't lie. Every time you push, something breaks. Every rule you bend, another heart aches. But there's still faith under all that noise. Still fire burning in a million quiet boys. We ain't changed, no, we're still the same, standing proud in a world gone strange. You call it rage, we call it pain. We just want our freedom back again. Flags have torn, but we raise them high. We ain't changed, we won't die inside.
Not to be a backseat driver, but can you say for sure you got the best monthly payment possible on your auto loan? Could it be that you might have gotten a better deal by shopping the loan at a few places and have a lower car payment? Next time, before you go car shopping, visit Communication Federal Credit Union first. Our auto loan experts will find you a perfect loan and get you the lowest monthly payment we can. Communication Federal, your auto loan experts. Restrictions apply. Federally insured by NCUA.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
From red dirt roads to the Capitol steps, Rick's calling truth, no time for regrets. Fire in his voice, facts in his hand, talking sense to the heart of this land. It's the Rick Robinson Show, where the truth rides high. No spin, no script, just an eagle in the sky. From D.C. to Tulsa, he's calling it out. Mic in his hand, yeah, he's got the clout. Heartland Radio, raw and real. Tune in and speak up and feel what we feel. He's breaking down the noise, cutting through the lies, shining light where the shadow hides. With guests in the mix and callers on cue, he's a voice for the many, not the few. Well, grab your coffee, raise that flag, stand your ground, never wave that rag. News with a backbone, voice of the free. Rick's got the pulse of liberty. It's the Rick Robinson Show, bold, unafraid. Truth bombs drop in a red state parade. From the plains to the power, he's speaking it loud. With a mic and a mission that makes us proud. Talk for the people, talk that's real. The Rick Robinson Show, where we say what we feel.
And happy Thursday morning to those of you out there in streaming land. My name is, I used to say radio land, but that doesn't really count anymore. My name is Rick Robinson. We are live. This is the Rick Robinson Show, and it's Thursday. Don't ask me why, and I'm trying not to jinx it, but I woke up in a really good mood today. I'm not even sure why. Maybe it's because I'm finally coming out of the end of whatever this crud's been that hung out with me for like 3 weeks. Ugh. Although last night was interesting, not to share too much over the streams, but so right after I got done with all my night shift work, I went to go blow my nose, and then I had a nosebleed for like an hour. And then the weirdest thing is it wouldn't stop bleeding till I got all the crud that was behind it out of my nose. So I don't really know what happened there. But anyway, so yeah, just me being ill the last 3 weeks has not been exaggerated, I promise. So we're here, we're live, and there's plenty of things to talk about. We will probably get in to the presidential address a bit. I know some people were like, "Oh my God, it's like he's forgotten how to talk on TV," because everybody was like, "Oh my God, he's yelling." You know what? I didn't notice it last night. And some of the playback today, I did notice it a little bit, but it also kind of just seems like I don't know. I mean, again, dude is what, about to be 80 years old? Let him shout at clouds if he wants. This is look, I like Trump. I don't know if I like Trump as a person because I've never met him, so I don't have any point of reference. I like Trump's policies. I like the fact that for the first time in forever, that and not COVID related, I'm looking at gas prices in my area between anywhere between $1.95 and 2.33 a gallon. That is a hell of a cost savings. Milk in my area is down over $1.50 compared to what it was in 2024. Eggs in my area are down over $5. There are some things that are still expensive, but that didn't have anything to do with Trump. That had to do, like, everybody's complaining about the price of beef right now. Didn't really have anything to do with Trump. And it takes a long time to fix it when you go on a slaughtering spree. So there are things that are stabilizing. There are things that are getting better. The consumer price index came out today and it's actually ticked downward again. It's sitting at 2.7%. You wouldn't know that if you listened to only leftist news media sources, though, or if you lived on the coast, because, and I said this last night, and I'm going to say it again, it is my firm belief, and I believe this 1,000%, that blue cities and blue states are doing everything they can to pass policies that don't allow the people that live within those blue cities and blue states to see these slow changes that have been happening since January. Because there have been changes. Some of them have been slow, some of them have been quite drastic. I'm actually really surprised that in my area, gas prices are down over $2 in less than a year. That is an insane thing to me because I have always been one of the people that was on board with the president can't really do that much about gas prices. And then Trump comes on the scene and proves me to be not necessarily always 100% accurate because the dude has lowered gas prices now in 2 non-consecutive terms. He's lowered food prices in 2 non-consecutive terms. But you can't talk about that or you can't give him credit for that because the second you do, everybody, well, you're just lying to us. You don't even know what you're talking about. And I'm like, no, actually, I do. I know exactly what I'm talking about because I've been living it. Because there for the longest time, I could go into Walmart and buy 5 things and walk out paying $50. It isn't happening that way anymore. As a matter of fact, I just got 3 or 4 bags of things delivered to the house even for about $50. I don't remember the last time I was able to say that. We got 2 different kinds of cereal. I got milk. I got eggnog because, yes, it's that time of year. I got the stuff for dinner tonight. I got the stuff for breakfast tomorrow. And all of that, all said and done, including a couple of other things that we needed, was right about $50. I used to be able to walk out. I used to walk out of Walmart buying that same amount of stuff just about a year ago and spending almost 100. So there has, in fact, been a change. And it is a noticeable change unless you live on the coasts. So people need to start thinking about that for a second because a lot of us that are seeing the changes, it's because we live in states that are still fighting to be free. You guys live in places where you've already ceded the argument. New York and New York City come to mind right now because you guys next month, those of you in New York City, welcome to Commie Land because that's where you're headed. And again, I don't live there. And I'm not trying to trash anybody, but I really don't understand why not with as many people that actually live in New York City versus the number of people that actually voted. I don't understand that, especially with what was on the ballot. But you know what? I've been one of these people for the longest time saying that I think people should start being able to get what they vote for. If you want communism or socialism and you voted for it, then fine, you should get to try it out. I don't know what's going to happen to the rest of the country because New York City is rather important to the rest of America, kind of like California used to be till we started doing everything we could to mitigate their damages. I think I know we're already under the process to do that with New York City as well. But at the same time, I'm curious to see what starts happening starting next month. I wonder how many exoduses there will be because I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to live under socialism. And we already have enough of that here. Car insurance is glorified socialism. Medical insurance is glorified socialism. And it's used over and over and over again to keep you under thumb because as soon as they make it compulsory, the prices go nuts. I'm 52 years old, and because I am now divorced through no decision of mine, I didn't make that decision. My insurance went up with the carrier that I had at the time almost $80 a month because of a divorce. So I found somebody else who took that all back. Now I'm back to paying what I was paying before for full coverage insurance. I wish I'd made that decision sooner because I would have saved about an extra $80 a month for the last going on 5 years. But here you go. Now, but that's part of it. You have to be a steward. You have to make decisions. And sometimes we don't do that. And I'm telling you right now, I'm just as bad at doing that sometimes. Like I said, I knew I was being robbed from my insurance company, but it was too much of a pain in the butt to go look for a different one until it got to the point where it was unsustainable anymore. And then I did. And I found somebody who was substantially cheaper. Now I'm getting alerts from people that say they're even more cheap. So I'm about to start looking into them just because if I can save more money, why the hell not? But that's just it. The difference between car insurance and medical insurance is this. There is portability across state lines. There is the ability to get insurance from multiple sources. There's the ability to get insurance from multiple states. You don't have that right with medical insurance. And I never really have understood why, except for the fact that these insurance companies have built their own little personal fiefdoms in these different areas, and they have all 1,000% got politicians and everybody else in their pockets. And I said what I said. This is why capitalism is sometimes a dangerous thing, because again, you have to be the steward of your freedom. We don't want to be that anymore. We have been conditioned to, let me rephrase that. We have been conditioned to not be that anymore because we want everything to run on autopilot. In the 80s and the 90s, we became a generation who wanted to be able to sit down in front of our TV with our TV dinner and have all of our conflicts wrapped up in 50 minutes minus commercials. Then in the 2000s, it became 48 minutes without commercials. Now we want everything done in a minute or less because that's about the attention span that we have now for people that scroll. And if it can't be done in a minute, then it's taking too long. And that's part of what we're running into right now because we are just now really starting to see Trump's policies take hold. There were some immediate things that he did to slow the bleeding and to staunch it. But everything that we're starting to see now with the prices starting to tick down, the tariffs that worked, so now he's able to readjust the tariffs in places where he's been able to get people's attention. And trust me, I know people that live in Canada. We talked about this on one of the shows that I do on Tuesday nights, with usually there's at least one or two Canadians on there. And off camera, dude was like, you guys are absolutely killing us with the tariffs. I cannot believe that our government thought we could stand toe to toe with you. And they're still trying, but they're killing us. And I'm sorry, but as an American, that's exactly something that I want to hear. I want to hear that our policies are working. I want to hear that our policies are making people start paying attention to us again. I want to hear that our policies are bringing people back to the table. And it may take a while with Canada, but they're getting there because their citizenry is getting really restless. Because there aren't a lot of tariffs going on in Canada, but the ones that are very surgical, and they're causing people to pay attention. And to me, that is a very important thing. And that's some of what I think the president discussed last night. And like I said, we'll probably get into that in hour 2. For now, I do want to talk about this, though. This is from our friends over at Town Hall. And should surprise nobody, but I guess the FBI under Biden was lying about armed civilians and their ability to help assist in stopping crimes. We've got the clip right here. Well, I guess this isn't a clip. I don't know. So this is from Right Angle News Network. And it looks like it's a woman talking about this very thing. So let's discuss together because I'm honestly not sure.
This is freaking huge. Armed citizens stopped 48% of all criminal shooters last year. And the FBI was just caught massively lying about those numbers in their public reports. They recorded, get this, none of them. 0%. Now, you and I and everyone else have seen those local heroes on social media, but rarely do we ever see these stories in mainstream media. Well, the script is about to flip because a new study by the Crime Prevention Research Center reveals that armed civilians stopped over 1,000 third of active criminal shooters between 2014 and 2024, nearly 10 times higher than FBI's reported 3.7% average. And again, with even more Americans getting armed post 2020, just last year alone in 2024, civilians stopped half of all criminal shooters. Yet, as I just stated, the FBI recorded 0 of them. You might be asking, how is this possible? Well, while digging for the study, researchers found that police were often falsely credited instead of the armed civilian, which is a recording pattern that clearly increased over the last 10 years. Now, this begs the question, why would they work so hard to hide the significant benefits of an armed public?
And one does have to ask the question, why would they try so hard to hide the benefits of an armed public? And the answer is right in front of you. They want you to be afraid of people with guns. They want you to be afraid of guns themselves. And that is, again, this is becoming the recurring theme of today's show, how to be a steward of your freedom. If you want to be a steward of your freedom, you should be teaching yourself and those around you how to use weapons responsibly, because that's what they're for. They are a tool. That should be an everyday part of your life if you are an American citizen who loves the Second Amendment. You shouldn't just be talking about it. You should be exercising it. Your family should know how to use every single gun that you have access to in your home, all of them. But you should still be taking steps to make sure that little Johnny can't take the gun to school with him for obvious reasons. And I'm sad to say that too, because when I grew up, by a certain age, everybody had guns in their car. Hell, I remember one of these times I was coming to school, and it was just after I'd gotten my driver's license. So it was 1990-ish, because I was a little late to the party. I pulled into the parking lot, and suddenly one of the assistant principals is hanging out with one of the kids with a pickup truck, and they're just talking. The kids showing and this is in 1990. The kid's showing the assistant principal his rifle and talking about how he and his friends and a couple of their dads were going deer hunting all weekend. And then you looked, and there was pickup trucks everywhere with gun racks. Some of the gun racks had guns in them. Some of them didn't, but it was just the way things were back then. I don't remember the last time I saw a pickup truck with a gun rack in it. It was an everyday fact of life when I was a kid, but it's not anymore. And I don't really know why, other than the fact that society has tried to change in such a way that was not beneficial to me or to you. And we keep running into those things. But again, being a stewardship of your freedom also means holding your government and your government agencies accountable. So finding out the FBI has been lying to you about the number of armed citizens that have actually stopped crime or assisted police in stopping crime should be something that everybody who believes in the Second Amendment should be talking about. With social media the way that is today, I should be seeing that story everywhere, and I'm not, and I don't really know why. But there's problem number one. And part of it I know is information overload. There's way too many different things going on all the time, and I get that, and I wish I had a better answer for you for it. But that is simply the fact of the matter is some of this has to be your responsibility. You have to take account for the things that are happening in your life. You have to take account for the steps that you've done to try to control the things that are happening in your life. And if you can't do that, then you need to take a really hard look at everything that I'm saying today and think really hard about that. Because very simply put, this is your responsibility, not your Congress critter's responsibility, not your Senate critter's responsibility, not your governor's responsibility, not the local legislature's responsibility. The accountability stops and starts with you. These are the things that should matter to you, especially if you want to live free. Now, if you don't, that's different. And I don't really care one way or the other. I'm just being honest with you, because I live in a free society. So you are allowed to either take the information that I give you and run with it or turn your nose up at it. That is your right. I'm not telling you what you should or shouldn't do, but I am telling you this. If we had a much more informed and involved populace, half the things that we're fighting about today wouldn't be happening, because it's really easy when you're sitting there in front of a screen 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to have information spoon fed to you. And as a matter of fact, I do find a couple of things interesting based on word choices, like with the word television. Because if you actually listen to how the word sounds, it's like they're actually telling you a point of view. I know that's not what it was supposed to mean, but understanding now the way society works and word triggers, etc., and things that have been used over time to placate us and lock us into certain thought processes, etc., I'm willing to bet there was a bit of a double entendre going on there. Then you also have the television program. Why would they call it a program? Is it because it's programmed through the station and they set the schedule, so they're programming the schedule? Or is it because they're sending information to you that they believe is going to help program you? Or again, is this a bit of a double entendre? I ask, you decide. That's how this works. But so one of the first things I wanted to talk about today is the fact that, again, we are seeing more and more proof of every single reason why we never should have trusted the FBI under Joe Biden. Now, you had all the critics last night talking about how Trump was a liar. Nothing that he said last night was even remotely accurate. Blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. So even though inflation remained above the Federal Reserve's target in November, but the latest data offered, a measure of relief, shows that prices rose about 2.7%, which was cooler than economists had expected and down from roughly 3% in September. Forecasters had anticipated inflation to come in closer to 3.1%, and both CNBC and CNN are admitting that inflation measures are exceeding expectations. And this had to be a very hard thing for them to admit, but here we go. So
morning, the CPI, maybe coming in a little bit better than expected. 2.7%, a little light here. I'm just reading the headlines here. Year over year, 2.7. Ex-food and energy core, 2.6. So 0.4 off. That is a very good number here. And it really,
notice the surprise in his voice.
Internals, I'll look at them now, but it suggests that the internals are good as well. Let's see, year over year, over the last 12 months. There is no month to month, but some guys will be able to calculate. Seasonally adjusted index for all items less food and energy rose 0.2% over the 2 months. So correct my math here, Michael Santoli, but 0.2 divided by 2 is 0.1.
Yeah.
So therefore, that's a very, very low monthly rate here. The index for shelter increased, so you did get a really nice decline in shelter, which was 0.2. And so that was 0.1.
So we're showing declines in the cost of shelter. We're showing declines in the cost of food and energy. And yet everyone keeps saying that Donald Trump's policies don't work. And I'm going to say that again. Everyone keeps telling you that Donald Trump's policies don't work, despite the fact that we have live, verifiable evidence coming into the contrary. And this goes back to something that I've been talking about now for the last several months. I don't understand or even know anymore how we can coexist with a group of people that are looking at the same data that you and I look at, the same information that you and I look at, and they have a completely different reaction to it based on ideological bent. I'm sorry, ideological bent. Let me fix that. And I don't know anymore. And this is a painful thing for me to say, because I was somebody who was, and trust me, I didn't ever have delusions of grandeur about it, but I really thought that if somebody, started again coming to the table and taking what used to be the 7 or 8 issues away that we are always going to fight about one way or the other, we would find that we have a lot more in common with the 80% of the population that is just sitting there doing nothing versus the 20% that is the most loud and ruckus, whatever, on both sides. And I'm coming to the realization that my premise was flawed, because I used to believe it was only differences of opinion, but that's not the case anymore. We are seeing differing facts based on point of view, which is supposed to be impossible. Facts are facts. They are immutable. They are unchangeable in the moment. The facts are the facts. The truth is the truth. But you had the left come in almost a decade ago and start changing how we viewed the truth. The truth became my truth. And I'm proud of you for living your truth. I'm proud of you for telling me your truth. Let me tell you what happens to the word truth when you put the word my or you or your in front of it. It becomes an upjumped opinion, no more, no less. But it gives the value of the opinion to now be an immutable fact because you're not stating an opinion, you're stating your truth. And the unconscious gut reaction is truth is immutable. So when you start saying your truth, then you're basically giving somebody an immutable fact. And trust me, there's a reason they started using those word choices because it made it easier and easier and easier to divide the populace. I talked about this a lot on Tuesday's show, and I apologize for missing yesterday. There were a lot of different things going on, and I'm still getting ready for the holidays. Um, but so Tuesday, we talked a lot about the Cloward Piven strategy and how that's basically been the driving force of the Democratic Party for over 100 years, whether anybody really wanted to admit it or not. And it started even before they had put a name to it because they understood the amount of control they could actually get and have if and when they were able to basically start telling everybody and showing everybody that, best thing for us to do is you give us control of your money. And that happened during the Civil War. Everybody seems to forget that part. Everybody says there was never an income tax until 1914. I think it was 1914. That's not necessarily the case, though, because what happened was, so we had a temporary income tax during the Civil War. Civil War ended, temporary income tax went away. And then for every 2-year cycle, the new Democrats came in and said, hey, you remember when we had access to all that money and all these cool things that we could do with that new progressive income tax? We should really do that again. And the Republicans over and over and over again kept saying no. It's kind of like, that whole, remember the big dog in the cartoons that always had the little dog that was following them around everywhere? I kind of feel like that's how the Republicans felt versus the Democrats back then, because the Democrats were the little yippy dog. What are we doing today, Spike? Where are we going today, Spike? What are we going to do? Where are we going? Come on, Spike. Tell me. So eventually the Republicans gave in and said, look, fine. If you really think this is something the American people are going to want, we're going to put it to a vote. And then the Democrats did what they always do, and they are still using the same language today when they managed to convince most of the country that the income tax was a good idea. It was because, remember, this is only a 2% income tax on the top 1% of the American population. So most of you aren't even going to feel this. It's not going to affect you. And they're still using the same language today. Hell, you heard Joe Biden when he was talking about his tax plan, how they were going to make it where, people making less than $400,000 a year, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And then in the very same speech, 5 minutes later, and if you use things like Venmo or PayPal to buy items or sell items then that belong to you, then if it's more than a certain amount of money, we're going to tax that. And that threshold was $600. And it wasn't just for buying and selling stuff. It was because they were trying to kill the gig economy, which very, very painful for me in that moment since I now live in the gig economy. Yeah, not a fun time indeed. All right, so it looks like we have people showing up in the chat. So let me see what's going on over here because I just realized I don't have it on the screen. All right, so we got an Andrew sighting. Dude, I started the show without you. Not my fault you were late. Not my fault you were late at all. It's really not, I promise. All right, so we're going to get ready to take the break. So we're going to get this queued up here. Hang on just one moment because, yeah, we do need to do that. Pardon me for just a moment because my system is being crazy. All right, we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
They shut the lights down in the city, say the system's on the ropes, while the same hands that broke it hold your paycheck and your hopes. They'll sell your sweat for silver, call your sacrifice relief, but every drop of truth we bleed writes another line of belief. Freedom isn't free, it's carved in blood and fire and stone. It's the price of stand tall when they tell you to kneel and go home. They can lock up every promise, tax the air we breathe, but they'll never chain the hearts of those who still believe. Cause freedom isn't free. They preach peace from marble towers while they fence off your front yard. They wave a flag made out of rules and call obedience smart. They'll brand your voice as danger, they'll mock your faith as greed. But freedom don't need permission, it just needs men who bleed. Freedom isn't free, it's carved in blood and fire and stone. It's the price of standing tall when they tell you kneel and go home. They can lock up every promise, tax the air we breathe, but they'll never change the hearts of those who still believe. Cause freedom isn't free. Freedom isn't free, it's written in red on history's page, a warning to the tyrants and the cowards of the age. They can bury us in silence, but the truth still screams. Freedom isn't free. Freedom isn't free.
And welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to read you something real quick. This is actually from a really good friend of mine, but I have to ask the question. So I just played you the clip from CNBC, right? So this is his response to the same clip that I just played on CNBC. This is like being the tallest midget. No one cares. Voters do not care that you slowed the increase in prices of things they already think are too expensive. Inflation is not Trump's fault. Voters don't care. He'll get the blame. Figure it out or the midterms will be brutal. So I have to ask the question, do you agree with this assessment? But my question is, why do we now live in a world where voters don't care about things like inflation? When did that happen? How did that happen? And what do we do to fix it? Because we used to have this thing called an informed populace. That's why it was so hard for them to do bad things to us for so long, because we had an informed populace. We understood our history. When we understood what brought us here, we understood the reasons why this country was founded. We understood the reasons why this country existed. We understood why this was, and in my opinion, still is, the best country on earth. We don't understand those things anymore because they're not being taught. But the thing about it is I can't just lay the blame with that on the schools. We keep trying to do that. We keep saying, well, it's because the schools don't teach kids anything anymore. So the parents are abdicating the responsibility for rearing their children and turning it over to the schools. Is that what's happened? That's an honest question. Is that what has happened? Because that's what I keep hearing from both sides. This is the fault of the schools because the kids aren't being taught anything anymore. And what they are being taught are things like gender ideology studies, etc. You know what? I understand that. But you know what I also understand? As a parent, I made sure my kids understood how the country worked, how the world worked, why the country worked the way it did, why it was important to be able to read cursive even if you couldn't write in it, why it was important to understand history even though they hated me every time I gave them extra homework. Because trust me, until they were in high school, I gave all of my kids extra homework and they hated me for it. They don't hate me for it now because now they're raising children of their own. And now they're understanding why it is so important to make sure that kids can read, write, understand basic history, understand how to do math without necessarily having to count on their fingers. But even if counting on their fingers is the best they can do, at least they're not having to, well, I don't have access to a calculator, so I can't do the math. So again, this is about taking responsibility and accountability for your own freedoms. So how is it that we now live in a world where we're seeing in some cases anywhere between $1.95 to $2.95 per gallon gas? I'll give it a dollar swing to account for a lot of places that don't have the crazy blue policies. And yet people are still looking at things going, everything's still too expensive. Under Barack Obama, we were told we were going to have to live with $5 per gallon gas. And I remember everybody gasping when they first heard that. And then everybody got accustomed to it. And eventually that's kind of where we lived. Most of the time, if our gas was $3 a gallon or more, or between 3 and 4, we were happy because at least it wasn't a 5. But now we have a president whose policies are bringing prices back under control. And and again, I've said this before. The problem with Joe Biden was this. The problem with Joe Biden was this: if you take out the number cooking and the number crunching and the way that they did it, his 9% inflation rate would have been a probably 20 to 25% actual inflation rate. So we're talking about an economy that was doing this turning into an economy that was doing about this instead. So prices were rising like this. What a lot of people don't seem to understand is yes, the CPI coming in at 2.7 is good, especially when they were expecting it to be anywhere between 3 to 3.1%. But that still means that even though we were doing, well, that's more of a 45, so let me fix that. So even though we were doing this, now we're only doing this, but prices are still going up. So that means we still have almost all of the price situations that were brought in under Joe Biden. And even though inflation has cooled and is back down closer to where they want it to be, we still have inflation. And I understand that for some reason in our economy, they have decided that some inflation is actually a good thing. I'm not sure I agree with that assessment, especially when you're coming down off of an actual inflation rate that would have put us in a depression worse than the Great Depression, if not for the fact that everything was being shielded from us and they were finding ways to prop up the numbers and they kept everybody from panicking and running on the banks. Because that's exactly what happened under Joe Biden. It's exactly what's happened almost every time there's been a Democrat in office. I keep seeing all these graphs showing up about all these jobs reports and everything else that are supposedly so much better under the Democrats versus Republicans. What they don't tell you is almost 80% to 90% of the job growth when a Democrat is in power is from the public sector, not the private sector. While the jobs reports have been anemic for the last couple of months, and they really have been, there's no way around that. Every job that's being created, though, is actually still coming in from the private sector. The jobs that are being lost for the most part are coming in from the public sector, meaning that's another way that you and I are saving money because we're not having to pay for double and triple and quadruple reinforced government positions anymore because they're getting rid of a lot of these things in the government that make absolutely no sense to have them. The internet happened. That's a good point. It's funny, and I talk about this all the time, and it's a very painful thing for me to say because I use the internet all the time. I use the internet to learn things all the time. I'm one of those self-educated folks. I have a 2-year degree. That's it. Everything else that I've learned on my own because I enjoy teaching myself things and I enjoy learning things, and I always have. And the internet has made that so much easier. And now AI is making that even more simple for me. As a matter of fact, because of AI and AI assistance for the first time in forever, I'm actually writing and releasing music. For those of you that have been paying attention, the video that I just played, that song actually releases for public consumption and purpose sometime around December 30th, December 31st. It was supposed to be 2 days ago, but I was so out of it when I was sick, I forgot to click a button and missed the opportunity to put it out that early. And then, yeah, because with the group that I use, you can put music out either within up to 3 days or anywhere between 10 to 15 days. And the 10 to 15 days option is free, and the anywhere between 1 to 3 days is an extra $40. And until I've tested something out and seen how well it works, I'm not giving them any extra money. So that's why this one is going to be a minute. And then because of AI, and I said this to a friend of mine the other day, because of AI and because of the extensive work that I've done with ChatGPT, I've had about 6 or 7 different book ideas just kind of sitting around half finished. And AI is helping me finish them because I'm feeding everything in that I've written already. And then it's taking it and going, well, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. And then sometimes I'll like what it says and we'll go in that direction. Other times I'll be like, I'd rather do this. So, and it's just one of those things. And then the other thing that I've been working on a lot because I've been sick was an idea that started as a gift idea for one of my granddaughters. And it was it was going to be a keepsake book because she was going to be the star of the book. And then I showed it to a friend of mine who runs a small publishing company after we'd gotten some of the dialogue squared away and the different story points. And they were like, this actually could be pretty good. You probably should just go ahead and put it out and see what happens. I'm like, okay, cool. So, unfortunately, AI is also somewhat of a bitch sometimes. So even though I had the story completely locked in and all the graphics and the designs completely done, when I started trying to put it all together, AI hiccups, and I'm having to go back through and manually assemble it all. Anyway, so, but the good news is Gracie's birthday isn't until February, so I should have plenty of time to hopefully have the book out in time to be able to get her one as a birthday present. So, because I'll probably be working on that for most of January. Because so it took the hard parts and made them easy, and then it took what was supposed to be the easy part and made it hard, which is what AI does. So you have to be really careful. Yeah. Actually, for this one, for the children's book, I'm actually putting it out on my own using Amazon KDP. Because I didn't have the money to let the publishing friend of mine do it. Otherwise, I would have. And I wouldn't be complaining about all the layouts and everything else that I'm having to do on my own. But I also wanted to learn how to do this because remember, I like being self-taught. And yes, there's a really big word for that. I'm not going to hit you with it today because I don't want anybody to have to look it up. Anyway. All right, so let's get back into the meat of the show because I kind of took a sidetrack. But while I'm sidetracked, before we get back into it, let's not forget Friday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, The Wizard of Oz, presented by the KLRN Radio Players, right here live on KLRNradio.com. So there will be no He Said, She Said Friday night, but there will be a new play. So, and as the Scarecrow, I invite you to come listen. And no, not the Scarecrow from Batman, the actual funny, cool Scarecrow from The Wizard of Oz. Anyway, all right. So let's get back in to the meat of the show. So I told you we were going to get into this in hour 2. We may actually come back to it, but I kind of want to talk about it now. So President Donald Trump delivered a primetime address from the White House, and he took the time to review his first year back in office. The speech emphasized border enforcement, tariffs, and discussed economic gains while offering few new policy initiatives. Coverage widely characterized the address as campaign-style messaging aimed at shaping the 2026 political narrative rather than outlining immediate legislative action. Now, the reason I put it to you that way is because that is what happened at the Press's Folly last night, because everybody was complaining that there was no meat to it, that he didn't really say anything that we didn't already know, that he was screaming. And I even saw a couple of people on the right talking about how they wished he would slow down because it was almost like he took a couple of bumps off the Coke that Biden left hidden in one of the lockers. And look, I will say this. I was surprised it was only about a 20-minute speech. There was no behind the enemy lines last night, so I was going to run that because I assumed it would be probably an hour to 90 minutes because most of the time when he talks, it is. So then I wound up having to fill time for about 35 minutes by the time I came back and filled the time. But the thing that I find absolutely amazing is after all the talk from all of the talking heads about how the speech didn't mean anything and the stuff that he's talking about hasn't really materialized, then you get the CPI numbers. And they're lower than expected. And we're talking about in some cases as low as 0.4 of a percentage point lower than expected, which in these kind of numbers is huge. Then you talk about gas prices. I talked about this on Tuesday's show, and I talked about it some last night. In Midwest City, Del City, gas is $1.95 a gallon. I don't remember the last time I saw it that low, when it wasn't because nobody was working because of COVID, and so demand was down. During summer months, our gas prices were low as hell. There were times when it never even broke $3 a gallon. I don't remember the last time I saw that happening. I don't know about you, but I don't remember the last time I saw that happening. There were a couple times in the places where I live out here in the middle of nowhere where there were a couple of gas stations that had like 305, but you could go a couple miles down the road and get it for $2.95 again. That was in summer. Now, according to the media, it was because nobody was traveling, so there wasn't as much of a demand. But then every time they talked about things like Memorial Day and Labor Day and every holiday in between, oh, there's record-setting traveling today, then what is this thing about nobody can afford to go anywhere? If there's record-setting traveling for the holidays, that means people can afford to go places. And this is part of what I'm trying to explain. I agree with some of what my friend said in the post that I read you earlier. Nobody that isn't a political wonk is going to give a crap about the CPI. They're only going to be looking at how much or how differently their wallets are impacted every time they go to the store. And depending on where you live, there can be a huge difference between those things. But at the same time, I'm going to say it again. You have to be responsible for the stewardship of your freedom. So if you aren't smart enough to be able to go to the store and say, hey, this was costing me $7.50 the last time I bought it in 2024, and now today I'm only paying $6. That's a $1.50 decrease. Think about that if it's something that you buy every week or sometimes twice a week. You're talking about saving anywhere between $52 to $104 a year just because of the policies of this current administration. Then you take into account that right now, on average, most people's gas prices are down almost $2 a gallon compared to where they were in 2023 and 2024. And this is, again, something where you're buying usually at least 20 gallons of gas per week. So you're saving $40 a week on average with your gas consumption. And that's only if you're only buying $20 of gas a week. And I know people are buying more than that. So we're talking about a $40 per week savings, even on the low end, times 52 weeks. So between just those two things that I'm talking about, that's almost an extra $500 back in your pocket a year. Just in the last year. But I shouldn't have to be taking the time to break this kind of stuff down and do the math, because you are responsible for the stewardship of your own freedom. And I'm sorry if I'm starting to sound like a grumpy parent, but that's what I feel like right now, because your freedom is your responsibility, not mine. You want to be able to live free? Fine. It's your responsibility to plan the way to do that. And I say this all the time. It's your responsibility to make sure that your family is okay first. Then you let everything ripple out from there, like ripples in a pond when you throw a stone in it. And then you start trying to increase your influence if you want to, and start helping the people around you. And then once they're stabilized and once you've got things going the way you want there, then you expand outward again and outward again and outward again. if you decide to do so. But at the end of the day, all of this, oh my God, everything's too expensive. I don't know what I'm going to do about it. Stop wringing your hands. Sorry, I'm trying to work on my language. Stop wringing your hands. You have control over your own destiny. This is one of the last places on earth where you are free to say that right now and actually free to do it. You have control of your own destiny, so take it back. Quit listening to the talking heads, me included, if that's what it takes. I don't care. I would rather have you guys turn off this program and go fix your stuff than listen to me and then continue to hem and haw. I don't care, because ultimately it is your responsibility to live free. That is your job. That is your God-given right. That is your God-given responsibility. We are all endowed by our Creator with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness being our lifelong goals. Whatever makes you happy, as long as it's not hurting somebody else, you should be free to pursue that. Whatever makes you feel like you're living free. In this country, you have the ability to pursue that, but you also have the right and the responsibility to protect it, which goes back to a story that we talked about earlier in the program. I find it astounding that everybody seems to be surprised that the FBI has been lying to us for the last several years with the amount of people involved in civilian shooting situations or civilian gun use situations that have actually helped thwart crimes. Again, for 2024, it was 48% of all crimes were stopped by armed civilians. In 2022 and 2023, it was 36 to 38%. That is a large percentage. And for the FBI to be reporting zero for 2022, 2023, and 2024 shouldn't surprise anyone. But a lot of you, when I say that, get the look, oh my God, they lied to us that badly. Do you not understand this yet? Your government is not your friend. Even when you like the guy that's at the top and in charge, your government is not your friend. If it was, they would already be ramming through all of these different things that they could see would be helping me and you. Look at just a little bit that Donald Trump has been able to do, and prices are coming back under control. And that's fighting Congress, because we keep sending gridlock back to DC. So for everybody who's screaming and yelling and complaining because nobody ever gets anything done in Congress, we are living out Einstein's definition of insanity. I don't remember the last time we haven't sent gridlock to DC. We keep sending gridlock to DC and then keep complaining that nobody's ever able to get anything done. You know what? If you think the Democrats have the best vision, vote for them, watch them push this country off the cliff, and I will laugh and cackle all the way, because I've been trying to tell you for 16, 17 years that if you vote for these idiots, you're going to get what you deserve. If you think the Republicans in a lot of cases don't want the very same thing, then you're not paying attention. Which is why your first primary responsibility is to stewardship your own freedom. This also means, again, to stop blaming the schools for your children's lack of education. You know your school system is broken. What are you doing about it? Are you talking to your children about the things that should matter to you and matter to them? Are you making them understand what they're not being told about national U.S. history anymore, and even world history? Are you giving them extra homework? Are you just letting them hang out on their screens and scroll all day long? Because if you are, then you are abdicating your responsibility as a free citizen. And this is something that I don't know why this is so much in my head and on my heart today, but this is something that has been with me now for the last several days as I started the process to spin back up and get soaked back into news coverage to be able to do this. Because I have to admit, the last 6 weeks has been, even though I've been sick most of the time, it's been really glorious working on other projects and just being able to hang out and watch TV again and not have to be soaked in news coverage 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to be able to do what I do. It's been nice. But every time I've started trying to turn everything back on and started getting serious about doing my work again, it's like this little bit of depression takes in. Because it doesn't matter how much I study. It doesn't matter how much I understand. It doesn't matter how much I try to bring to you the things that the mainstream media isn't talking about, unless you're taking that information and passing it on to others. And a lot of you don't do that. I'm not calling anybody out by name because I don't know, but I know that's what's happening because there have been people doing this for longer than I have been doing this, and we're still in the same boat. And it's one of those things. I feel like I myself am starting to live Einstein's definition of insanity because I sit in front of this microphone and this camera several times a week, sometimes several times a day, talking about these same things over and over and over again. And all I keep getting is, we want everything taken care of for us, Rick. You don't understand anymore. We don't have the time, the patience, or the inclination to teach our children American history. That's what the schools are for. We don't have the time or the inclination to pay attention to whether we're putting poison in our bodies when we go buy the things that we buy at the store. Because they kept telling us they were going to try to make our life easier. And all they really did was teach us that we don't have to do anything. And now, if you don't believe me, just look at this generation. Again, as much as I used to complain about the idiot box, there's now studies coming out all over the place that kids young adults 18 to 26 don't even watch TV anymore. Primetime TV is dying because they're doom scrolling from the moment they have a free moment till the time they go to bed. And that's it. So they're getting little digestible bits of information, usually heavily skewed digestible bits of information, 30 to 45 to 60 seconds at a time. And it's funny because I was talking about that at my brother's funeral because I was the one that officiated the service. And I was talking about a time when he was a kid, and then we're going to have to take a break because I realized I'm over. Talking about a time when he was a kid, and I mean kid, like 2-3 years old. Anytime I would get up to leave the room, and this was back when you had the little channel changer where you could just, it was a box and you move the dial and the channel would change. So I would get up to go do something for him, like get him a drink or make his lunch or whatever. And I would come back and he would be sitting in the middle of the living room floor, changing the channel from commercial set to commercial set because the commercials were the perfect amount of time for his attention span at ages 2, 3, and 4 years old. And it would drive me crazy because when I would come back in, I would go start trying to turn on, a longer format program. He'd be like, wiki, how about commercials? No, you had commercials for the last 10 minutes while I was making your lunch. But yeah, anyway. So, and the reason that's important is because I need you to understand that they are dumbing themselves back down to having the attention span of a toddler. Whether it's happening on purpose or happening through addiction, I haven't been able to determine yet. All right, we're long, so we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. My name is Rick Robinson. You're listening to us live right here on KLRNradio.com, and I'll be back for hour 2 here in just a minute. Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
The lights down in the city, say the system's on the ropes. while the same hands that broke it hold your paycheck and your hopes. They'll sell your sweat for silver, call your sacrifice relief. But every drop of truth we bleed writes another line of belief. Freedom isn't free, it's carved in blood and fire and stone. It's the price of standing tall when they tell you to kneel and go home. They can lock up every promise, tax the air we breathe, but they'll never chain the hearts of those who still believe. Cause freedom isn't free. They preach peace from marble towers while they fence off your front yard. They wave a flag made out of rules and call obedience smart. They'll brand your voice as danger, they'll mock your faith as greed. But freedom don't need permission, it just needs men who bleed. Freedom isn't free, it's carved in blood and fire and stone. It's the price of standing tall when they tell you kneel and go home. They can lock up every promise, tax the air we breathe, but they'll never change the hearts of those who still believe. Cause freedom isn't free. Freedom isn't free, it's written in red on history's page. A warning to the tyrants and the cowards of the age. They can bury us in silence, but the truth still screams. Freedom isn't free. Freedom isn't free.
Not to be a backseat driver, but can you say for sure you got the best monthly payment possible on your auto loan? Could it be that you might have gotten a better deal by shopping the loan at a few places and have a lower car payment? Next time, before you go car shopping, visit Communication Federal Credit Union first. Our auto loan experts will find you a perfect loan and get you the lowest monthly payment we can. Communication Federal, your auto loan experts. Restrictions apply. Federally insured by NCUA.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
From red dirt roads to the Capitol steps, Rick's calling truth, no time for regrets. Fire in his voice, facts in his hand, talking sense to the heart of this land. It's the Rick Robinson Show where the truth rides high. No spin, no script, just an eagle in the sky. From D.C. to Tulsa, he's calling it out. Mic in his hand, yeah, he's got the clout. Heartland Radio, raw and real. Tune in, speak up, and feel what we feel. He's breaking down the noise, cutting through the lies, shining light where the shadow hides. With guests in the mix and callers on cue, he's a voice for the many, not the few. Well, grab your coffee, raise that flag, stand your ground, never wave that rag. News with a backbone, voice of the free. Rick's got the pulse of liberty. It's the Rick Robinson Show, bold, unafraid. Truth bombs drop in a red state parade. From the plains to the power, he's speaking it loud. With a mic and a mission that makes us proud. Talk for the people, talk that's real. The Rick Robinson Show, where we say what we feel.
And welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. Again, my name is Rick Robinson. This is the Friday Eve edition. For those of you working for the weekend, you are nearly there. Although this time of year, weekends really don't matter because a lot of you are burning vacation and everything else. So anyway, so we're here. We're live. It's almost Christmas time, by the way. I hope you guys have finished your Christmas shopping. I can tell you with authority, I have not. You know, it's funny. Sean was talking about this last night in his show. I think it was last night. It was either last night or Monday. I don't remember. I think it was last night, though. How people that, you know, have their Christmas present shopping done by July and August. He's right. Those people scare me because I don't. And it's not that I did. The thing I always tell myself every year after I get done with the hustle and the bustle and the screaming and the yelling and the fighting with crowds and doing all this, that next year, I'm just going to buy one present a month and put it in my closet. Or one or two presents a month and put them in my closet. And I never do. And every year, by this time of year, I wish I had. But I think it's because I have a deep-seated fear of people that, you know, can plan their lives out well enough that they have Christmas done by July. I need that form of discipline. I've never really had it though. And this is one of the reasons why it's taken something like AI coming on the scene to help my addled brain self get projects finished. Because I'm one of those people where I'll start a project and I'll get about halfway done with it. And I'm like, oh, this is really cool. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, losing interest. Now let's move on to something else. Is that just me? Or is that everybody else too? I'm hoping it's everybody else too, because I don't like being out here on this limb by myself. But AI has been really helpful with me for that because it'll keep me on track. Now I have to fact check AI a lot. So actually, I was 2 minutes late to my own show today because I was arguing with my virtual assistant because it kept wanting me to talk about climate change. I'm like, I'm not talking about climate change. It's bunk. It's stupid. So what I was doing was, and this is when I started down logic rabbit holes, and eventually I break it and it comes back and says, oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I haven't gotten to that point yet because I was in the middle of typing a very long explanation as to why climate change is crap when I looked up and realized it was 10:02 and I'm like, I got to hit a button. So yeah, we'll be finishing that discussion probably tonight or tomorrow because I'm taking a break from the book because it ticked me off. So the other thing about AI is you got to be really careful. As somebody who uses it a lot, I'm still going to tell you, you have to be really careful because I spent weeks the whole time I was down figuring out, you know, the exact phrasing that I wanted to use on each page of the book for the different encounters, etc. And then I started trying to assemble everything and even, you know, made it understand, hey, you can actually do this part for me. And then I think the fact that I was right and it was wrong pissed it off. because even though we had locked in the entire manuscript at that point, when I had it start putting the images and the words together, all of a sudden it was pulling up completely different pieces of manuscript that we had never talked about or locked in, etc. So I was like, what the hell? It's like, oh, I'm so sorry. There's another process that I should have told you when we finally had every little segment locked in, that you should have had me run another report, reviewed it one last time with everything in place, and then told me to lock it in, because now my other programming is kicking in and it's just randomly generating stuff. This is when old man starts shaking fist at clouds again. But there's a reason I opened with this, because that's been one of the takes from Donald Trump's speech last night. So was Donald Trump's PR reset a success, or was it old man yelling at clouds? Because depending on who you listen to and who you watch and who you pay attention to, then you are likely going to have the old man yelling at clouds. And I said that earlier today. It did kind of come across that way until you have the CPI victory posting today. And I think that's the exact reason why Donald Trump gave the speech that he gave last night, because he knew these numbers were about to come out. And it is one way, despite what one of my friends said on social media, to make the American people care about the CPI, is when you're sitting here having a president who you likely, for the most part, disagree with, for a lot of folks that are constantly mad at him no matter what, to say, hey, the economy's actually doing better. Joe Biden broke it. We fixed it. We're still fixing it. And this is what we've done so far. This is what you have to look forward to in 2026. And then the CPI numbers come out and everybody's like, maybe it wasn't really just old man yelling at clouds. But that's the whole point to this is Donald Trump, and I don't know if it's his PR team that like snakes stuff from different places and then works it in, because one of the folks that I read all the time from PJ Media, which is Scott Pensker, a lot of what he's been putting in his columns for the last several months made it into the speech. So I'm going to read you a bit of his article, and then I'm not going to read you the whole thing. I'll put it out on my X feed, so anybody who wants to read the whole thing can read it later, because I don't want to be that guy that just spends 2 hours reading articles to you. But I am going to read you this part because I thought it was cool. So this is from PJ Media, Scott Pensker, headline first: grading the Donald Trump PR reset, mission accomplished or old man yells at clouds. My 19-year-old kid loved Donald Trump's speech for two reasons. One, he's Army cavalry and likes free money. And how? He suspects someone in the White House was stealing my PR ideas, which means his old man must be powerful and important. When Trump announced a $1,776 check for military members, my kid's first comment was, wow, the strip clubs near the bases are going to make lots of money. Problem is, I'm pretty sure he's right. Merry Christmas, boys and girls, but I don't think he's right about number two. The White House PR team probably read the same tea leaves I did, which led them to the same conclusion. To refresh your memory, 9 days ago, and this is from him, I wrote a primer on solving the so-called affordability PR crisis. We had 3 talking points, all leading the audience to a very specific outcome. And I quote, specifically, we want to remind the American people that inflation exploded under President Biden. And again, 9% was a lie. Actual was probably 20 to 25%, which means right now we're probably sitting at an actual of about 8 to 9 because everybody cooks the numbers. And Trump has been working 24/7 to clean up Biden's historic mess. Additionally, we've already achieved so much in key categories, prices have already dropped, even though the mainstream media tells you the opposite. We want the American people to believe inflation was the fault of Joe Biden and the Democratic Party, because it was. Donald Trump and the Republican Party's plans to fix the economy is already working. We might not be out of the woods yet, but we've made extraordinary progress. 3, if we continue the Trump GOP plan, the economy will roar, wealth will grow, and an age of peace and prosperity will be upon us. The last thing we should do is give the economic keys back to the same Dems who crashed the economy in the first place. However, and this is where I'm going to editorialize a bit, let's not forget that these very same people that we're asking to focus in and pay attention to these things have a 30 to 60 second attention span nowadays. So that's where he's leading his audience. That's where I've been leading my audience, because Biden was the problem. Trump's policies have been the solution, even though the mainstream media wants to tell you the exact opposite. And to the letter, that was exactly the message of President Trump's primetime TV address. From a PR perspective, he framed the so-called affordability crisis absolutely perfectly. And in my opinion, it was a 10 out of 10. You couldn't have asked for better framing. Congrats to the president's PR team. Very well done. Now this is from him, but if Trump introduces the BIDEN, otherwise known as the Biden Pain Index, next week, yeah, I will be taking a victory lap. With all due respect to Frank Luntz, and this is something that has driven me crazy for a while too, which is why I'm reading this part to you. With all due respect to Frank Luntz, his quick take methodology for evaluating speeches and debates, where his focus groups flip different dials when they hear things they see that they like and they don't like, is a load of garbage. The human mind doesn't evaluate ideas that way. We don't critique TV performances moment to moment on a 10-point must system. Because life isn't, in fact, a collection of individual moments magnified. Instead, a few days after the event, we remember a few big things: impressions, emotions, takeaways. Getting the most click on Frank Luntz's happy meter is pretty meaningless. So what truly matters in this instance is what the audience thinks on days 2, 3, and 4, and 5. We want to win the game of long-term impressions, emotions, and takeaways. So that's my question. Do you think he did enough last night? Did he push the points home enough? And I don't think he did to a point. But the problem is, for the people that he needs to be able to reach, it's going to be almost impossible for him to be able to do it. And this is what I'm talking about yet again. We are now living in a world where people can look at the same speech happening in real time and have two completely different reactions to it based on ideological bent. I don't know how we coexist with those people, because reality doesn't matter to them. The fact that gas prices are down substantially doesn't matter to them. The fact that diesel prices are down substantially, which means eventually prices will be coming down even more than they already have, because it's not going to cost as much to ship things, doesn't matter to these people, because Orange Man is bad and everything Orange Man touches dies, and it doesn't matter how well it works. We saw this all laid out in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020. There were really good things happening in the economy before the mental midget, the leprechaun of the Potomac, unleashed a fucking plague on us. And I'm sorry, I firmly believe that is what happened. Knowing everything that we know now, seeing everything that we can see through the lens of history, I am telling you right now, they tried to murder us. And they're pissed off that it didn't work. And if you think I'm pulling stuff out of my ass, I urge you, when this show is over, to go research first Agenda 21 and then Agenda 2030. They want population control. What are we at now? 11, 12 billion people planet-wide now, I think. I don't know. I don't have the numbers in front of me. And everything that I've been watching lately has the numbers from the early 2010s. So I know it's at least 3 or 4 billion more than it was then, which is why I'm pulling that number up. But they want a population of about 500,000 worldwide. Maybe a 500 million with a B tops, because they want the people to still be in charge, that can still be in charge, to be alive, and they want enough of us to do the menial tasks so that they don't have to, and they can enjoy their new lapse of luxury. So, who are you going to believe at this point? The people that keep lying to you. We just showed you evidence that the Democratic-run FBI at the time was lying to you. We've shown you the fact that in Washington, D.C., the police chief there was lying to the people that he was sworn to protect. You've got the incident with the Brown University out of Rhode Island, where they are repeatedly lying to everybody every single day, over and over and over again. So how much more of a clear picture can I paint for you? Because while I don't trust the Republicans any more than I trust the left, at least Republicans are trying to do something. And again, one of the reasons they haven't been able to do a lot of the things that we keep telling them that they want to do is because we keep as a country sending gridlock back to Congress. You can't scream and yell at the Republicans for not being able to get anything done when you don't give them clear enough majorities to be able to get anything done. And then you can't scream and yell at the Republicans when they start talking about making changes to how the Congress works, when we as a collective society keep sending gridlock back to Congress and then yelling and screaming at them that they can't get anything done. Because that makes us sound retarded. I don't know about you, but I don't like sounding retarded. I don't like being made to feel like potentially I'm the retarded one in this scenario because I keep trying not to send gridlock back to DC. It's that simple. You, as a free citizen, have to decide what you're going to do with your life. And if you want to be free, there is a price for freedom, and it's not always blood. But it's like the song says, freedom isn't free. It's never been free. There are prices involved in you being able to live free. Even if you are someone who, for whatever reason, can't sign on the dotted line and protect your country in a uniform, there are things that you should be doing at home to make sure that your country is protected. One is making sure that if you decide to share the responsibility of having children and continuation of our future, then you have to be responsible for educating those children. You can't abdicate that to the schools, and we've done that over and over and over again. It is your responsibility to make sure that you are rearing productive citizens who understand their place in the world, their place in the country, and their place in the universe. And we as parents are not doing that anymore. And I say we, even though for me that's not really true. All of my kids are doing pretty well, and and they're getting to the age now where they've actually come back to me and said, if you hadn't made me do all those extra things that I yelled at you about when I was a kid, I wouldn't understand half of what was going on in the country. I said, I know that. That's why I made you do them. And now my oldest son has a teenage son, and he's been doing the same thing with him, making him do extra things and understanding what he needs to understand about the Constitution, the Declaration of the Independence, the formation of our governments, the letters from Thomas Jefferson, the writings of all of the different founding fathers, the Federalist Papers, all of the above. And again, it was driving him crazy at first. But now he's starting to get it. Now he's starting to get it. Oh, BZ's kind of fired up in the chat today. F bipartisanship and compromise. Yeah, I'm kind of there too. The problem is it's not compromise anymore. And Amish and I talked about this a little bit last night. Everybody wants to know why we're so divided now. It wasn't us that started the division process. Reagan agreed to work with the Democrats. Reagan was one of the last conservative presidents to stand up at a national address and tell people that, yeah, Tip O'Neill and I may argue from 9 to 5, but after 5 o'clock, we would go have a beer together if we wanted to. And then the amnesty debacle happened. And that was when the split started happening. Up until that moment, there were common spaces where Congress critters would sit together when they had lunch, etc., and they would talk and they would hang out and they would chat. Because at that point in time, everybody thought that even though there were ideological differences about how they wanted to get us there, that everybody was still on the same page and they really wanted what was best for the country. That was fallacy. And it had been fallacy for a long time, but nobody was willing to see the writing on the wall yet. And the first time they just overtly took a shot across it was supposed to be a shot across the bow, and it wound up being a shot that hit amidships. Was with the amnesty thing, because the Democrats told Reagan, hey, if you take care of the mess that's already here and we just wipe the slate clean, then we will help you fix our immigration issues. So he said, sure, fine, whatever. And then they didn't. Then it became, and you saw this playing out in real time just a couple months ago, and everybody's already forgotten that because we have the attention span of gnats. You watched the Democratic Party hold the country hostage because they wanted more money. They wanted $1 trillion of your money to do with as they saw fit. And they were willing to shut down the government to try to get it. Now you have four Republicans who rewarded that bullshit by crossing party lines last night and saying, yeah, we're going to go ahead and vote on these ACA extensions for 3 years. Are you serious? I might have given you 6 months, maybe. And that's a strong maybe. Like, and I'm not even really sure kind of maybe, because I don't even know if I would have been willing to do that. But in dire circumstances, I might have given you 6 months, long enough for people to start putting together actual things that would fix our medical care system. And there are things that can be done to fix our medical care system, but nobody wants to talk about them. First thing is we need to have upfront pricing. When you go into a doctor's office, when you go into one of the urgent care clinics, when you go into a hospital, whatever you're there to be treated for, you should, that when they're going over everything that they're treating you for, what they plan on treating you for, there should be a price list that pops up and lets you see exactly what you're going to be paying down to the detail. So if the prices are too crazy, you can be like, hey, I can get the same treatment 2 miles away at another hospital. Deuces for cheaper. So I'm going to go down there. But that's the first thing. We have to make the American consumer a consumer again when it comes to their medical treatment, because we haven't been consumers. Not in the ways that consumerism usually works. Because consumerism thrives on competition. Because the more competition there is, the more price controls there are. Because if a hospital is charging you $10,000 for an ER visit and another one down the street is charging you $5,000 for an ER visit, where do you think everybody's going to go? The $5,000 one, which in my opinion is still too high, but that's just a number that I pulled out of thin air. So that's point number one. If we could have upfront pricing for medical procedures and things that you can look up online that say this is what you're expected to pay in this particular location to do these procedures or whatever the case may be. And then the ability for there to be insurance company competition. And I talked about this in the beginning of the program. One of the problems that we have is, we talk about how China has become a hybrid society with communism, dashes of socialism, and little mixes of capitalism thrown in. Guess what? We've become a hybrid society as well. Nobody wants to talk about that, but we have become a hybrid society as well. Car insurance, pure up socialism. Medical insurance, pure up socialism. But it's now become car insurance and medical insurance not fueled for public good, but maximum profits. Which means we're taking the two worst parts about each economic system and amplifying them. Right? Right? So BZ in the chat, even plumbing companies, for God's sake, are featuring clear and open numbers available by the job. That should be no different for anything. And so going back to the insurance companies, though, one, there needs to be interstate competition with insurance companies. Insurance must be able to be portable, must be able to go across state lines, because then you don't have one or two insurance companies fighting for your business in a region. You have multiple, sometimes dozens of insurance companies fighting for your business in the same region. But again, let's not forget that when you take the two worst parts of both the socialist and capitalist system and amplify them, what you're creating are little fiefdoms. So the reason the Democrats are fighting so hard to get these subsidies back across the finish line isn't because it helps me and you, because it doesn't. It doesn't. I played a clip last night, and if I had been smart, I would have bookmarked it, but I did not, of Chuck Schumer in 2014 talking about how they had squandered their majority by focusing on the ACA. Because in the grand scheme of things, it only really affected 5% of the population, and less than half of that population even bothered to vote. So it was a wasted opportunity of a majority, and it didn't do the things that they told the American people that it was going to do. That was Chucky Schumer all the way back in 2014. Trust me, he didn't mean anything that he said, but he was trying to get back in everybody's good graces, because that was right around the time that they got shellacked in the midterms. And things started swinging back the other way. So there was a rare bit of honesty, even though he didn't mean it, coming from Chucky Schumer. But the reason they're fighting so hard for this now is because that 5% of the population is a cash cow for the insurance companies, especially when you get the government on the hook for most of the payments. I don't think you guys understand how this stuff works. Once you get, and this has been a feature not a bug of our society for a long time. Was never really talked about until much later. But even with things like the expansion of the railroads, once they started figuring out how much the federal government was willing to pay them per mile, even because there was like this race from the East Coast to the West Coast, and there were two different companies, railroad companies, that were trying to basically get there first. But they were also being paid X amount of money per mile of track that they were being laid, and then whoever got there first would get a huge bonus. So the company that was far enough ahead where they realized that there was really no way for the other one to catch up started saying, well, if we stop doing a straight line and we start doing little curves here and there and go different places, then we get more mileage for the track, and so we make more money. Think about when the railroad tracks were being laid. How many hundreds of years ago was that? So you're telling me that's been a feature for this long? Now, the difference is everything that was happening with the railroad at that time was either being funded through tariffs or through bonds. So it was voluntary. People were giving money to federal projects. We had the most Republican form of financing for a government ever, because what wasn't able to be covered by the tariffs that were in place at the time, Congress, and that's just it. We had veto power of the wallet. Congress had control of the purse strings, but we still had the ability to say, no, we're not going to help you pay for that. Because that's what would happen. If there were shortfalls between what Congress was trying to do and what they had allocated, and there wasn't enough money to cover it from tariffs, they had to come back to the American people and say, we're going to release X amount of bonds to try to get this particular project funded. We would hope that you would help us by purchasing those. So they would literally have to come to us hat in hand. Please, sir, may we have some more? To get things done if there wasn't enough money in the coffers through the tariffs. So we, no matter who we sent to Congress, no matter who was president, could ultimately control things simply by refusing to buy the bonds. So if there wasn't enough money to do it, the project died. And then usually they tried again next term. This is the truth of where we were. Ultimately, we were the masters of our domain because we had final say even after Congress had passed laws and appropriated as much of the budget as they could. If there wasn't enough money there to cover it, they didn't just have the ability to print more back then. They had to come to us and ask for it. And that's just it, BZ. You have an excellent point in the chat again. It's like when the government got involved in university loans, prices went up, but they went up because the universities were like, well, if the government's going to help them pay and bring the prices down, then we can start charging them more. And it even got worse than that. Once the government got involved in the pricing, not only were they starting to charge more per credit hour, they were starting to do things like, well, maybe we should have other things that they have to take now, so that we have to have them enroll in more classes. And then that basically started turning university into high schools. It's high school version 2.0, grades 13, 14, 15, and 16. Did I count that right? Yeah, I did. And it became basically an extension of high school. And I mean, in my opinion, if we're going to do that, we might as well just make it part of the public education system and just treat it the way we've treated everything else and just finish going down the crapper. Because I don't know how to fix any of this anymore. I keep trying, but the American people don't have the stomach for it anymore. All right, we're going to take a quick break. I know we're a little bit long, but I need to hit the facilities, so we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned, everybody.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
They keep saying we must want civil war. But tell me, friend, what are we fighting for? We just want to be left alone, to chase our dreams and build our homes. Front porch lights fading in the storm, trying to hold on to what was warm. But we ain't changed, we're still the same, standing proud in a world gone strange. You call it rage, we call it pain. We just want our freedom back again. Flags have torn, but we raise them high. We ain't changed, we just won't lie. They moved the lines, kept pushing the frame, redefining truth and changing names. They say progress like it's a holy word, but nobody's listening, nobody's heard. We stayed steady while they rewrote the song. Now they call us out for holding on. Well, we ain't changed, we're still the same, standing proud in a world gone strange. You call it rage, we call it pain. We just want our freedom back again. Flags have torn, but we raise them high. We ain't changed, we just won't lie. Every time you push, something breaks. Every rule you bend, another heart aches. But there's still faith under all that noise. Still fire burning in a million quiet boys. We ain't changed, no, we're still the same, standing proud in a world gone strange. You call it rage, we call it pain. We just want our freedom back again. Flags have torn, but we raise them high. We ain't changed, we won't die inside.
Not to be a backseat driver, but can you say for sure you got the best monthly payment possible on your auto loan? Could it be that you might have gotten a better deal by shopping the loan at a few places and have a lower car payment? Next time, before you go car shopping, visit Communication Federal Credit Union first. Our auto loan experts will find you a perfect loan and get you the lowest monthly payment we can. Communication Federal, your auto loan experts. Restrictions apply. Federally insured by NCUA.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back into the program. BZ in the chat with all the facts. 1863 was when the Transcontinental Railroad project began. Finished in 1869, if I'm reading that right. I taught that stuff at the California Railroad Museum. Dude, is there anything you haven't done? I mean, granted, I know you've been around for a while, but it's funny hearing all the things that you're like, oh, I did this, and I did this, and I did this, and I did this, and you're still like, I don't know. Yeah, but no, that's pretty cool. So anyway. So, yeah, we were talking a bit about how, you know, the exploitation of government funding has pretty much always been a thing, even before taxation. Taxation made it worse, though, because then there were supposedly unlimited funds for government to do things. So then, we'll just throw money at the problem, and eventually it'll go away. All right. So I've stayed out of this one for the most part, but we got to talk about it in the last few minutes of the program because I hadn't really been plugged in for long on it. But yeah, there's some weird stuff going on with this Brown University thing. Just watch this clip.
And that is typical for that academic space.
So that right there is the mysterious campus safety chief, Rodney Chapman. Funny, we haven't really heard from him. Where's he been? Well, we just discovered the Brown University police chief isn't really a big fan of policing. He once said this: communities don't want policing done to them. How this guy came to Brown is a crazy story. He was the head of campus security at the University of Utah. And right after he was hired there, he was immediately suspended because he didn't have the proper credentials. Utah then told him, we're going to fire you or you're going to have to resign. What's it going to be? So Rodney resigned and Brown said, we'll take you. And right before this shooting, Brown's police union issued a vote of no confidence in Chief Rodney. The chief's own men accused Rodney of endangering officers and creating a toxic workplace culture. Rodney should know the campus better than anyone, but all week he's been hiding under his desk. He's obviously completely unqualified. Brown's the most liberal Ivy League school, and they take DEI more seriously than safety. The school's been under intense pressure from the Palestinian students. The president, who was a no-show at today's presser, has been heckled for years by Muslim underclassmen. She always bends the knee, but they heckle her anyway. Over the summer, radical left human rights groups demanded Brown disable their security cameras so Palestinian activists could raise hell under the radar. Did they cave? We asked. No response. It's not just Brown. The whole city is a DEI mess. You know who else was at the press conference? The Providence City Council Chief of Staff is a genderless bisexual who was arrested for protesting at Trump Tower this year. Meanwhile, the police chief could be compromised. Turns out the chief's nephew was sentenced to 22 years in federal prison for running one of the largest fentanyl rings in Rhode Island. And Mayor Smiley promoted him to chief knowing his family was trafficking. Why would Smiley do that? Well, because Smiley and the chief speak the same language.
All right, so I don't talk about this much because I spent more time doing the private sector side of it than I did anything else. But I remember a time when if it came out that one of your, even extended family members was doing shady shit, that you would be suspended or worse because they didn't know if they could trust you anymore. Instead, Rhode Island promoted the dude. I didn't even know that last part. I'll be honest. Like I said, it's been hard for me to plug back in. And I've been trying to do it, especially over the last couple of weeks. And then every time I got serious about it, I would get sick again. This is probably the best I felt in about a month. I woke up today and I was like, dude, I haven't even had to take any congestion medicine yet. That's pretty awesome because I don't remember the last time I could say that. But so I sat down and I started doing some research, and I started, okay, it's time for me to finally take a look at this Brown shooting situation, and then finding out that one, the campus police chief was given the option to resign or be fired from a university in Utah because he didn't have the proper credentials to even be able to hold a position, just to be scooped up by Brown. So you're telling me that between the time he went from Utah to Rhode Island, he managed to get the right credentials and had all the things that he needed? I mean, granted, some of that stuff is different state to state, but I can't believe there's that much of a disparity. And then to find out that not only is the campus police chief basically a DEI hire, the actual police chief, because sorry, there is a difference between campus police and real police, and I'm sorry, I know that hurts people's feelings, but it's kind of like when I made the jump over to private security, I didn't have a real badge according to law enforcement friends of mine anymore, so I said, and I didn't let that hurt my feelings because it was just the truth. Hey, mom needs to go to the beauty salon, Raptor. So you took one for the team to take care of your mom. I completely respect that, and props to you, my friend. I'm just glad you're here at all. But yeah, I was a little sad. The numbers have been low today, but I'm like, you know what? It's like exactly a week before Christmas. Ain't nobody paying attention to this crap right now. I'm just doing the shows right now because I haven't done so many in so long that I need to get back into the swing of it. Otherwise, I probably would have taken most of this week off again. But I'm like, dude, I have barely done any radio or broadcast work in like 6 weeks. So. But anyway, but yeah, I mean, and then to find out that the chief of police in this particular jurisdiction, the actual police, not the campus police, has ties to the largest fentanyl ring in Rhode Island. I mean, I used to be, that old axiom, absolute power corrupts absolutely. I used to be one of the people that never really bought into that very much. But look at everything that's coming out. Everything. The Rhode Island police chief's being tied to a fentanyl ring. The DC police chief's been lying to the people that they've sworn to protect for forever. The stuff that came out about the Capitol Police after J6 and how corrupt they were. The stuff that came out from Nancy Pelosi being caught on video 2 different times admitting that she's the one that dropped the ball because she would have been the one in charge of making sure that the National Guard actually got deployed to the Capitol that day. And she didn't do it, but she didn't do it on purpose. Now you've got the BBC video that we now know has been heavily doctored and heavily edited that was entered into evidence in trials for J6 defendants. I mean, I'm going to say it again. Not only do I not know how we coexist with these people anymore, I don't really know how we fix this without tearing it down and starting over. Because you can't kick over a rock anymore without finding extensive corruption almost everywhere. I mean, hell, it's even happened in our state. Our governor here got in trouble a few years ago because there were all these barbecue joints from a specific brand popping up in state locations. And it turns out that there were some kickbacks happening. The governor didn't know anything about the kickbacks, but because he authorized them, it stops at his desk. It's all a mess. Now you've got the PPP loans frauds that are still coming out. There's a Chinese company that is actually having to return millions and millions of dollars in PP loans or they're going to be facing charges. I mean, hell, I kind of wish I'd have jumped on that train while I could if all I would have had to have done is make sure that I could return the money if I got caught. But I didn't. Yeah, and the FBI lying about shootings and a million other things. I mean, in the last couple of minutes of the program, I'm going to ask this question one more time. And if anybody has anything they would like to add to the conversation, you can always at me at RowdyRick73, even though I'm about to go off the air for a little while. I'll be back tonight, first pushing buttons for Disasters in the Making, and then hopefully putting a Gin and Rick in the can before Christmas, because I don't want to work next Thursday. Just saying. And I don't really expect anybody else to either, unless they want to. Because honestly, for this year, it's weird. I don't really have much going on for Christmas Day this year. Usually, I have so many things I can't keep up. So I've got family I'm meeting up with on December 20th for Christmas Eve. I've got family that I'm meeting up with the weekend after Christmas. So for the first time in forever, Christmas Day is just going to be me and my 2 kids that live with me and my 1 granddaughter that lives with me. So yeah, I'm actually planning on putting together a small little Christmas dinner here at the house, which I haven't done in forever. And I'm like, ooh, this could be cool. I could make a couple of different things, do a couple of different sides, get a couple of pies, and we could just have our own little home cooked Christmas meal on Christmas. Probably be a Christmas lunch, honestly, because I don't really do Christmas dinner. But anyway, so yeah, so even though I'm just now returning and trying to get back to full steam, next week might be a little light on programming because it's Christmas week. But I will be doing a couple of shows. As a matter of fact, I may even do one on Monday and Tuesday because I doubt I will do one for the rest of the week after that, except for maybe Friday. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. You guys want to put up with me on the 26th or nah? Just asking. Anyway. All right, so that's going to do it for this one. Just as a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, come back tonight for Disasters in the Making starting at 8 p.m. Eastern. Then we have the Jen and Rick Show, which I hope will be live tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern. There's usually a little 30-minute program that Jeff puts out there in the middle if we can coordinate it well enough. So that may or may not happen. I don't know if he's still doing those or not because, again, I haven't really been here in over a month except for off and on. And then tonight we have BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon live right here on KLRnradio.com. However, if you want to chat, the best thing to do so everybody gets proof of the traffic, come to our feed first, then jump over to their YouTube channel so you can go talk because our chats are unmonitored during that program. But that will kick off just after Jen and Rick or 11 p.m. Eastern time if there is no Jen and Rick because I haven't confirmed with her yet. And I do encourage you guys, if you're not paying attention to our friends over at SHR Media, you really should be. They're some of the sharpest folks in the field as far as I'm concerned. And BZ, I missed your interview with Hanson the first time because I was working on another show. I did get to pay attention to that last night during the refire. Some point I want to pick that man's brain because he's figuring out how to do things that I've always wanted to figure out how to do. Although hearing what Netflix said to him was kind of funny. All right. Anyway, so we're going to get out of here, ladies and gentlemen. Again, if you like what we're doing around here, please give us a like, a follow, and a subscribe wherever the options are for you to be able to do that. Whether that is on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, X, wherever. You can find me at RowdyVic73. You can find the station at KLRN Radio. And we do have a Rumble, a YouTube, and a Facebook, as well as the next page for the station. You can find me usually here somewhere pushing buttons or talking. Because I'm involved in about 80% of the programming that takes place around here. You can also find me as a contributor to misfitspolitics.com, theloftusparty.com, twitchy.com, and I also produce the Loftus Party podcast, which drops on Tuesdays. And also, Kung Fu Rick Productions is starting to release some of our original music. And again, the first title that we have ever put out, Freedom Isn't Free, will be available starting, I believe it's either December 30th, December 31st, on all of your favorite streaming platforms and available for your purchase. That's it. That'll do this one. We will see you guys tomorrow for the Friday edition. Also, don't forget to come back tomorrow afternoon for the Weekend News Roundup, and then tomorrow night for The Wizard of Oz, live right here on KLRN Radio. The place to be, ladies and gentlemen. Bye, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you so much for those of you that decided to come hang out with me today, because I know I have been missing a lot lately. Bye, everybody. Say goodnight, Gracie.